Hello and welcome back to Mark's NOTCAST if you're a repeat viewer, and if you're not, and this is your first one, hello. My name's Mark and I talk into my mobile phone every once in a while about whatever interests me and hopefully interests some of you as well. It's number 424. It is 19th of January 2025. Good God, we're in the future, although obviously tomorrow is the future as well. And I was going to do this one on Thursday, but I wasn't, because obviously the news came that David Lynch sadly left us and elevated to a higher stream of consciousness. So today is my random record rummage. Some of you are interested in this, some of you are not. Rest assured, laughter and funny material will be dubbed in later on. And this is where I have a book and a film and maybe a Blu-ray and a 7-inch and a 12-inch and a CD. Picked out by my child labour. So I'm going to go for, this is I can tell by the feel actually, this is a CD. And I know which one this is. I'm going to reckon this is an album called Spill by a band called Spares. Yes it is. So the band are called Spares and the album is called Spill, which is good. This is an album by John Penny and Dan Wharton of Ned's Atomic Dustbin, a band that I like a lot, but I understand have limited commercial appeal these days, who sold I think 1 million albums in 1991 with their debut LP Godfather, toured America loads, and then promptly got written out of history when Kurt Cobain turned up with a ripped pair of jeans and a Dennis the Menace jumper. This is, I think, the first album of all new original material that's been issued or released by John since 1999's Plausible Infeasible by his post-Ned's band Groundswell. And there's Atomic Dustbin because they still exist. In fact, I'm hopefully seeing them soon, and were, I think, a very underrated band that suffered from the fact that they had cartoon graphics on the fronts and their name was after an episode of The Goon Show. If they'd have been called something like Built Think and they'd come from Boston and they had 4 guys called Chad in them and they'd been on maybe, let's say, Fugazi's label or Sub Pop, people would be hailing them as this amazing band that everyone should listen to, but they're not, because they're called Ned's Atomic Dustbin and they're from Birmingham, where the accent is regarded as the most untrustworthy accent in Britain. This band have been subject to, I think, a degree of prejudice. Ned's Atomic Dustbin and both Spares are not given an opportunity to really kind of exist. So this was released on, I think it was only released on CD. It comes in this lovely package here. And I should point out, by the way, here is an advert for the band's tour, which I didn't get to see because I just wasn't able to get to see them, in a lovely gatefold CD with a booklet in. So you take the booklet out, you get that colour. Now, if you've got that fear of holes, I think it's called tryptophobia, but I could be wrong. If you've got a fear of holes, this album cover, this CD cover, might actually terrify you. At which point, very sorry, but I can't do anything about that. And it comes in a lovely little digipack, lots of orange and blue. It's only 2 colours, but of course you look at that and then you look at the back side, which is this, and then you spread those 2 out, and you get, a positive and negative inversion of the same image. I don't think this record was released on vinyl because I think I'd own it if I did. And it has 11 songs on it. I quite like this album. I haven't heard it enough because I don't get an opportunity to listen to enough music because I am often very busy and working and travelling and stuff. But I should listen to this more. I know I should. So sorry, John and Dan, forgive me. Dan being the drummer in the band of Ned's Atomic Dustbin, but also Dan plays everything and John just sings. And it was recorded by Jessica Corcoran at Perry Vale Studios and mastered by Paul Tipler. Sleeve is by Helga, and Helga did the cover art for a lot of the Ned's releases as well. So I like this record. I really like this record, well, this album. Yeah, I don't think it's on streaming, but if it isn't, go and, if you like Ned's Atomic Dustbin, you can't go wrong. Listen to this and give it a listen. So really enjoy it. No particular standout tracks on it because, like some albums, it's a combination of things. It's not just one thing. And so the album as a whole is an art form that I've gravitated to greatly over the past few years and stuck to with more effort. So we're going to go in, and we're going to get a book. I don't know what book this is. It's book shaped. Oh, okay. So this is I Blame Morrissey by Jamie Jones. And you wouldn't let song lyrics rule your life, would you? So I haven't read this yet. This comes from, and there is a Japanese word, the pile of unread books. My Adventures with Indie Pop and Emotional Disaster. So this I haven't read. I bought it very, very recently, in the past 2 months, I think. And this is, as far as I can tell, a memoir about somebody that was obsessed with the Smiths and lived or grew up in Peterborough, of all places. First published in 2015. I think I picked a copy of this up in a charity shop for about £2. Not read it. Obviously, as some of you know, I am a big fan historically of the Smiths and Morrissey, not so much of his current work, which I will address in upcoming episodes of my NOTCAST, and I have the one planned for Southpaw Grammar and Boxers coming shortly. So I haven't read this. I presume this is not vastly different from my experiences being a child of a similar age, 17, 18, 19, in the late 80s, early 90s, seeing Morrissey as a solo artist, not the Smiths, that type of thing. And generally, it says, I love it, you need to read this book, according to Ron Kirkpatrick, who is Papa Bear from TV Storage Hunters and a Morrissey fan. Well, sorry, Papa Bear, haven't got round to it yet, but I will do. So, sorry I can't review this because I haven't read it. But isn't it right, there's a Japanese word for the pile of unread books, and I have hundreds of unread books. I'm making my way through all of them, each slowly and surely, and I will get to the end result at the time that I need to get there, but it will take me a little while to get there. So, The Prestige by Christopher Nolan. This is a really, really good film. I think this is very, very underrated. It has one of my favourite David Bowie appearances in, where he's Tesla. And I think this is, if I recall correctly, I may be spoiling it for you, but the film is 19 years old now. It is a film about magicians, and there are twins that are involved in it. And I'm a twin, as you probably know. I have a twin brother who I disagree with on a certain thing, which is quite important to me and less important to him. So we're not really in contact at the moment. But as has been said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. The Prestige is a film, very good. It's around deception and belief. It addresses themes around that and around whether you believe what you want to believe and see what you want to see. And as a film, I really rate it. It maybe doesn't hold up to a second viewing as well as some of the other films of Christopher Nolan's that you've seen. Certainly holds up better than Tenet and Dark Knight Rises. Oh, sorry. Dark Knight Rises was atrocious. I really didn't understand it at all. But no, The Prestige is very good. Hugh Jackman, or Jack Hugeman if you're Adam and Joe, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Scarlett Johansson, as a spectacular film. I rate it very highly. At the time that I did my Nolan ranking, might have been my number one, actually. Certainly in the upper edge. Makes more sense than Interstellar. Right, what else have we got in the shining book of things? BluRay. Oh, heavy metal. So this is a 1980-ish animated film. I don't know which features fantastic special features, including the original feature-length rough cut and the making of. Do you remember the days when they used to do? Well, firstly, does anyone remember Laughter as Led Zeppelin had? Does anyone remember DVDs as I had it? And also, does anyone remember extras? I'm surprised it hasn't told you that it's got animated menus. Let's have a quick look in there. No, it doesn't have animated menus. So heavy metal is a strange and unusual 1980s film with a soundtrack featuring, according to what it says here, soundtrack by Black Sabbath, Blue Oyster Cult, Nazareth, and many more. Probably Dio is on there, or Rainbow, or other bands that had big hair and short on credibility. And it was a 90-minute animated film, which has a series of short stories that are in it, ranging from the bizarre, a bit Twilight Zone-y, a bit kind of Tales of the Unexpected, a little bit animated, a little bit of Woman in a Bra flying on top of a dragon, and features the original feature-length rough cut, which is an alternate version of the film, which I haven't seen for a long time. I saw this at the start of COVID. The problem is, watching things in during COVID, and I finished Netflix during COVID, by the way, is that I ended up watching a lot of stuff and not remembering anything that I was watching because it was so featureless, the period during COVID. So little happened. And obviously I started a YouTube channel during that, which is quite a surprise. But there was a case of, well, not leaving the house, not venturing further than the supermarket, occasionally going to town, going for a walk around a nearby lake, which is about a mile that way. And that's about it, really, going for a walk in the park. Did my exercise and my step count load of good. Didn't do the rest of me any good. And I really, really, really missed my friends. A huge part of my social life during COVID was leaving the house, seeing bands, seeing my friends, having a Diet Fanta and a burger and bitching about things. And that wasn't happening. So that was COVID, and that's obviously one of the things I watched. The last time I watched this was during that. Now, I don't remember the differences between the feature-length rough cut and the final cut. I suspect if you go to movie-censorship.com, you can see the difference between all the alternate versions. I recently watched both the extended versions of The Hobbit and the extended versions of Lord of the Rings, and I've got to be blunt, I did have Hobbit fatigue by the end of it, but each of those films together come to something like 22 hours. So that was quite a long time. I try to watch them over Christmas because, well, I try to. It doesn't always work. But no, Heavy Metal is a good film, not a great film. It has some fantastic and stunning imagery in it, including, of course, and I think I have to take this out. Oh, here's my voucher from CEX where I bought it. Did you know the logo to CEX was designed by, what's his name? Chris Brooker, who wrote, or Charlie Brooker, sorry to say, who obviously wrote a few other things. So my copy of Heavy Metal cost me £3.50. I bought it at the same time I bought Gorky Park, which I do remember, All Quiet on the Western Front, which I remember, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, that I still have downstairs. This cost me £3.50, and I bought it on the 25th of October 2015. That image there is one of my favourite images. I absolutely love that image, the idea of this huge smiling robot with a huge kind of fusion reactor in its mouth. Absolutely great image. Although, by the look of it, it only appears briefly. But no, good film. And by the way, if you have a CEX near you, knowing that David Lynch has died recently, if you want to watch a David Lynch film, you probably have to buy it from CEX because there aren't very many streaming options. I don't think this is on streaming either, but if it is, go ahead and knock yourself out, as they say. Right, so what else we've got? We've got a 7-inch, and we've got an LP to go. 7-inch, right. So this one's State of the Nation by The New Order, and it's Factory 153. This is an original Factory Records 7-inch, and State of the Nation. Apparently people went to see New Order in 1986. This was one of this Subculture and Shell Shock were produced by John Roby. And apparently people were going to New Order shows, and there were some people with a T-shirt that said John Roby must die because they didn't like what John Roby was doing to the band in terms of production. So State of the Nation is fine. It's by no means my favourite New Order song. It's okay, but not great. If I was to pick out a list of classics, would never be on it. State of the Nation hasn't been played live by New Order since about 1987. It is being played live currently by Peter Hook and the Light, Peter Hook being formerly of New Order, alongside some members of his band Monaco, performing the New Order and Joy Division albums Substance in full live, which, by the way, if you get a chance to see, is a great experience, a great night out, and a way to see New Order songs played live that you never normally get to see. So, for example, a Peter Hook show, certainly on this tour, if you saw the Substance show, would feature Everything's Gone Green, Confusion, Thieves Like Us, Shell Shock, State of the Nation, none of which are played live by New Order, alongside a number of Joy Division songs that don't get played live by New Order either. State of the Nation is okay. I don't like it. I'd never put it in my imaginary set list, but it's okay. And this 7-inch is backed by an alternate recording, the first version of the song called Shame of the Nation. So State of the Nation, written and produced by New Order, and Shame of the Nation, written and produced by New Order and John Roby. So it's a different recording. And I think Shame of the Nation is the first version of the song that then became an alternate version, or perhaps, think about it differently, a very, very expensive demo. Right, last, not least, probably not least, I think I know what this is. Right, so this is the Smiths. This is the unofficial live album released on Dear Boss Records of Human Cries, live at the Apollo Theatre, Oxford, March the 18th, 1985. So this show is on the Meat is Murder tour, broadcast for BBC Radio. A number of the songs on it became B-sides of That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, and also on an NME EP. This features 13 songs, because not all Smith songs were very long. Let me just quickly check the colour of the vinyl. Yes, it's pink, glorious pink. And this is, one of the a period from the Smiths that sometimes gets slightly overlooked. I do think the Smiths are missing a trick, in so much as they've never done much in the way of a career-spanning box set. They've just done the albums box set, they've done the singles box set, but what we haven't had is a full overview of the Smiths' career in its entirety in the way that bands like Metallica have. And I think obviously that's because there's a disagreement between two of the people in the band. One of them isn't talking to any of them, and the other one, the third one, Andy, is now obviously sadly dead, who was a great and underrated bass player. The Smiths are a band that have aged, I think, very, very well. And if you think about the Smiths as a band that ceased to exist in 1987 and not some of the stuff that's happened after it, their run of albums is immaculate and unique and perfect. Their material has very few low points. Obviously, Work is a 4-letter word is one of them, and Golden Lights by, I think, Twinkle is another one. But of their original songs, I don't think they wrote a bad one apart from Work is a 4-letter word. And even then, that's okay. That's just not amazing. They produced an album with a fierce regularity, one every year, 84, 85, 86, 87, plus obviously 2 major compilations, being Louder Than Bombs and Hatful of Hollow, alongside the live album Bragg. So those 7 albums was pretty much all you need, really. And of course, you can have The World Won't Listen instead of Louder Than Bombs, because Louder Than Bombs was released in America, because Hatful of Hollow wasn't released in America, so there's a duplication of tracks between the two. But if you only have The World Won't Listen, you do need to pick up the single of Sheila Take a Bow as well, which was released after The World Won't Listen was. Otherwise, you'd have had a complete and perfect discography. This album fulfills an unusual place in history. I don't think there are enough Smiths Live albums. The Smiths Live, which I didn't get to experience, but a couple of my friends have, and I'm so jealous of you, were apparently an incredible experience in concert. And I wish there was more officially recorded material that was officially available. So you've only really got Rank, and you've got the live set and recorded, I think, in Boston on the Queen is Dead set. So you don't have, for example, Hamburg, Amsterdam, Madrid, for example. You don't get these. But obviously this was good enough to be released as B-sides on the Meaties, it was originally due to be the single for Meaties Murder, then turned into That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore. And there's a curious thing, because time has collapsed with streaming, is that we now have a point where when a band existed doesn't really matter. They're not current. In the days before streaming, you would have an idea of, well, this band did some things, but you would never be able to hear them. So if I wanted to hear what a band sounded like, I'd have to know somebody that had the album, or hope that Birmingham Library had a copy of it that I could get out and borrow, so I could hear what the band sounded like. These days, of course, you type the band's name into Spotify, up they come, you can listen to them and decide within 30 seconds whether they're for you or not, which is not obviously how it was when I was younger. So the concept of time has become elastic as a result of Spotify, and largely the enshittification of the internet has also meant that actually time is really difficult now. Link rot, a huge number of links that disappear. So being able to find interviews from 5 or 10 years ago for certain major artists that gave really important interviews. They just don't exist. It's like someone's wiped out the copies of them completely, unless you go to archive.org or the Wayback Machine. So being able to read, let's say, a paywalled article from the Washington Post that's been deleted because they pulled the plug on their servers, mind-numbingly stupid, because data is important and history matters. So I think with everything moving over to digital and the lack of permanency in terms of digital record keeping, there will be a time when huge chunks of major human history will just cease to exist and you won't be able to access them. You'll have to rely on memories or people going, I was there, and someone go, even though that article was read by like 1 million people, there's not necessarily a record of it in any tangible way that really matters anymore. And that's really difficult. So you think about releases of Alien Romulus, the film I saw yesterday on streaming, which, by the way, is a bag of shit, had its CGI updated, which means that the theatrical version that we all saw, you can't see it, doesn't exist. And so therefore, the enshittification of things is important, and making things worse, Twitter becoming a Nazi hellscape, for example. Facebook deciding we don't need facts, thanks very much, we need opinions, and talking about free speech. Well, I'm sorry, but the absolute objective reality and the absolute truth and facts of the matter do matter, and they always have, no matter how people revise or update them with new special effects, or they change the covers and like, for example, the reissue of Bone of Drag that's in a different colour, that has extra tracks, the version of Southpaw Grammar that has songs that were recorded before the rest of it, with a different lineup 2.5 years previously. That stuff's annoying, just as from an archivist and a historical perspective, because you kind of go, is my memory lying to me? Is it telling tricks? And so we should keep and preserve the originals. The other thing about the collapse of time is that when something happened has become somewhat irrelevant. The fact that the Smiths played in 1985 here, the only thing about that betrays that that's not really real is the date that's up there, and the fact that one of the band members is dead and the Smiths don't tour. It's certainly, you could get to the point of going, I've just discovered this new amazing band, the Rolling Stones, and you look at them and they're like all got a combined or an average age of over 80. And a combined age of something like 4,224. And so, does it matter, history? I mean, certainly these products are marketed in small numbers. I think this one is, and it says limited edition coloured vinyl of 300. That's some albums don't sell very many copies. And even though this is on a lovely shade of coloured pink, of course, look at that. Pink's a colour, black's a colour. So there you are. If it wasn't that, then of course the other thing is, it doesn't really matter when it happens, because you can be 20 or 60 or whatever age you are, and the music speaks to you when it was recorded. Doesn't really matter, certainly because if it speaks to a consistent human emotion, and songs like I Want the One That I Can't Have, How Soon Is Now, Stretch Out and Wait, Headmaster Ritual, these are songs that have speak on a permanent basis to permanent human emotions that humans experience often. And that is important and it's relevant. So the market for this, well, it's old dudes like me who remember the band, and then it's young people that want to get into vinyl that don't actually own some of the original albums, but want to have something by the Smiths in their collection. And it's an affordable way of getting a lot of material. And since there aren't things like 12-inch singles anymore, or 7-inch singles are very limited and they're expensive, you can get a pretty hefty record collection, and you can plump out the official releases, which are sometimes a bit Spartan to say the least, with lots of unofficial releases that then make your record collection look bigger, and you can experience moments in time that you never ever could, such as live shows. It's one of the reasons I like listening to live shows, is because if I can't be there, at least can I have an echo of what it was once like. And sometimes I've been to a lot of shows that have been filmed and released. High profile examples of those include obviously Pink Floyd at Live 8, David Gilmour at the Royal Albert Hall, Morrissey at Earl's Court, which was released in 2004, Morrissey at Drury Lane, New Order at Alexandra Palace, Reading Festival, Finsbury Park, Hyde Park, which was released on the 2006 Glasgow DVD, the Troxy, Pet Shop Boys I saw at the Royal Opera House, which became the Inner Sanctum release in 2018, the Birmingham NEC. They're reminders to show you that I was there, and that so that you can look back and it triggers memories back in me. And I remember kind of where I was for the Pet Shop Boys show. I remember where I was for the Birmingham show by Pet Shop Boys. I was up on the side, on the back, and I didn't really comprehend what I was looking at. But those are all parts and ways of going, I was part of history in some tiny little way. I saw it happen with my own eyes. And even though I didn't get to see the Smiths, I feel like I've got a flavour for what it would have been like to have seen them. And although these albums disappear in the blink of an eye, they're limited in scope and number, and they don't last. What they do is, for a record collector like me, they allow me to complete the picture of the band's history in a way that perhaps I couldn't do without their existence. So there you have it. That is my that's my random record rummage today. Hopefully that was okay. Next time I'll probably be talking about a band. God knows which one. I have some ideas. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.